Hello, my name is Brittany D. I am a psychic medium and spiritual teacher. My divine purpose is to assist in the expansion of the collective consciousness and to help you become more connected with the divine. This is a space to remember all that you truly are and ignite the possibilities of your highest potential. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy. I have Mr. Dante Hitt, who is a spiritual curator, on with us today. He is also someone that I have known and loved for years. Thank you, Dante, for your existence in my life. I'm so appreciative and so excited to have you on the podcast, dude. This is so great. And excited for the conversation to come. We're going to talk about codependency and relationships, at least generally relationships, but also going to dive into the codependency piece because I know that Dante definitely has some knowledge under his belt as far as that goes. Thank you so much, Dante, for being here and being present with us, dear.
Yeah, I love that intro. Thank you, B. I'm fucking honored and privileged to be part of the conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. So just start by telling us about make sure let's acknowledge what exactly you do. So that way, if anyone feels called to you, which I'm sure is going to happen because Dante is super on point, y'all. If they feel called to you, either to follow you or work with you or anything, just kind of give them a general overview and then dive into a little bit about what you teach and what you kind of mentor and guide about as far as with relationships.
Cool. Yeah. So I help women exclusively now. I was men for a little bit and women, but now exclusively women heal their wounded inner child, specifically empaths and codependents. So a lot of that's focused on establishing a positive relationship with your emotions and the big, intense emotions like loneliness, self-judgment, shame, specifically. And in embracing those emotions and learning how to develop a positive relationship with them, no longer engaging in behaviors that are classified as self-sabotage. One big one for me is when I got lonely, I would go hook up with somebody. And it was not inspired. It was not for connection. It was purely to take the edge off the emotional pain I was in. Or alcohol, drugs. So getting out of those patterns and getting out of also feeling like you're not good enough and then tolerating certain behaviors from, partners with narcissistic qualities, or maybe not, but just maybe they don't resonate with you as much as they should. And I don't want to say losing time because everything's a lesson, everything's an opportunity, but getting the lesson that you need from that person, that the universe, why the universe put them in touch with you a lot more quickly, and not sacrificing as much time being in that position, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely. The piece when you said not feeling good enough, man, that really hit me because that is something that I just finally, I really feel obviously, we'll see what the universe has in store if it appears again, but I really, truly in my heart feel that I transcended that one, all the way through this last karmic cycle, this last karmic relationship I went through. And it was because I was able to identify it so clearly. He was such a clear mirror of it that it literally what happened, how I identified it is that one day we were at his shop and we were hanging out and we were juicing and we're having a great time and blah, blah, blah. And then we both had work that we had to get done that day. So then we each went our separate ways and we were okay, we'll just do dinner later. And then I'll stay over or whatever. And so we went and did our separate things. And as I was working, I was like, I just had this feeling, like this feeling in my stomach. And I was like, I can't even work right now. Like, what is this? And then I went and I sat and I meditated and I was like talking to spirit and I was like trying to follow the feeling, you know, and like really identify what is this feeling? What does this feel like? What is it saying? You know, all those kinds of things. And then I landed, and when I finally got to, I'm not good enough, it just resonated. Like it hit me. You know, I was like, oh, wow. That's it. That's exactly what it is. And so then whenever I went back to his house later on the night, or went to his house later on in the night, you know, we got dinner or whatever, and we were sitting there eating. And I was like, you know, when we were done, I was like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, I just want to let you know, like, I'm not exactly sure where this is or like what's pulling this out. But all I know is that being with you right now is making me feel like I'm not enough. Like, this is what you're mirroring to me. And I didn't put it on him. I just said, this is what you're mirroring to me right now. So if you could just be sensitive about it, like, this is something that's present for me. And like me, like not only noticing it and seeing it myself, but also communicating it and being seen in it. It's like it all got amplified. And it was like, okay, we're dealing with this and we're dealing with this right now. Like, we're walking through this, honey. And so luckily, like I did, you know, I have my therapist and we did inner child healing and like working with other, you know, Reiki and just all different things that I just worked with that belief. Like was so clear to me, I am not enough. And it was like, or I think I said, I'm not good enough or something like that. But it was just that general, like, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. And so I kept like chipping at it little by little, little by little. And then little did I know, as I'm chipping at it, right, slowly our relationship starts to fade. Like starts fading away. We start separation starts, you know, the universe starts pulling us apart. And every chip I took is further apart, chip further apart. I'm like, okay, that's why you came along, was to mirror that back to me. So that way I could see that belief and conquer it. And I really like, and like I was telling you before we hopped on this call, like the thing with me feeling good enough as a mentor, regardless of where I'm at, my face can be smashed and I am still good enough to show up on a video. Like, it doesn't matter. And so like that was all happening at the same time. And so I was like, this is definitely me transcending this belief. Like, this is, it's like too everywhere in my life right now that like, this is definitely me conquering it. But I just super resonate with that because I feel like, especially like, you know, those of us that grew up in a high level of abuse, trauma, and neglect, like, especially the neglect part is like that. My belief was connected to like, I wasn't good enough to have the attention. Like, I wasn't good enough to be, you know, and honestly, like in all reality, when I was really diving into it now as an adult and talking to my therapist, I'm like, dude, my mom was genuinely just trying to keep my brother alive. Like, he was moving through his addiction and she just didn't want to lose her son. So it's not like she didn't want to look at my trophy whenever I got like number one on the, or whatever, like something she didn't want to. It's that she genuinely was trying to survive. Everyone was just trying to survive, but it did create a belief in me, you know? And so to me, that belief majorly affects not even just like, we were going to kind of dive into like more of like, you know, romantic relationships, like partnerships, that kind of a thing in the codependency there. But that belief affects, like it was affecting my work. It affects all relationships. Like, not feeling good enough affects all, like, really, like, man, it just pours everywhere. I feel like I feel so relieved to really, you can feel in your body when something still triggers you. Like if someone talks about loneliness, you know, you like, oh yeah, I'm a kind of little lonely. And
yes,
it's like,
totally,
no, I don't feel that way. And it's like, I'm not good enough. No, I don't feel that way. Like, I don't anymore. I know what it feels like to feel that. And I don't.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I loved how you said that. Well, firstly, like communicating that, I mean, that's huge. That's huge. Like having that ability to just open up that dialogue with your partner or significant, you know, whoever's in your life at the time. That's amazing. Because I feel like a lot of the time we hold that stuff down, or like one big one for me that I'm working on right now is just distancing myself. Like, because in the past, I totally didn't trust, you know, communicating, or I did communicate. And then I was severely, you know, reprimanded for that, both growing up in childhood and in horrible relationships with beautiful people that were exhibiting toxic behaviors. So I think that's dope. It's something that you said about once you did that, once you like investigated, okay, what the hell is this? Let me not just stuff it to the side and let it grow in momentum, but like investigating, what is this, communicating what you're feeling, and then having like all of it come up almost at once. I think that's dope, because I feel like what the go-to habit is to like stuff it down and only kind of face it when it becomes so fucking intense. And I feel like you're pretty adept at this because you've been doing this for a while. Like, you make it a priority to like investigate, what does my feeling say? Why is it like this? Why the fuck isn't this matching? Let me see what's here. Yeah. I feel like for most people, it's like stick it to the side until I have like a meltdown, or I start sobbing at work for some fucking reason and I don't know why, because there's such a disconnect from what we're feeling in every moment. And I think I want to just point that out, because that's like huge. Like, once you do investigate what the hell is there, it becomes really intense, for a short period of time, but then it's out. Then that layer is like gone, it doesn't stick with you just like hanging around for like fucking weeks and months.
Yeah. And it takes a level of courageousness and vulnerability, to communicate that. I want to make sure to state and advise that you need to make sure you're in a safe space. Like, I knew I was in a safe space. You don't just crack yourself open, your vulnerabilities and really deep shit like that to just anybody because you see it. You need to make sure you're in a space. I just want to make sure that we're not advising anybody to just start speaking your shit. I mean, I feel you, but like,
speak your truth.
Safety, especially when it's those inner child things, like that inner child needs, if she's going to be vulnerable, then she needs to be in a safe space to do that. I just want to make sure to make that abundantly clear. And I'm super blessed, but I also I have super high standards that you're not even going to be really in my inner circle where you would hear something like that unless you are safe. Like, that it's just not even, if you're not safe, 100%. Then I'm not fucking with you. Like, honestly, if I'm being totally real. If my inner child, if my deepest shit is not safe, then you are not in my inner circle. Yeah.
It's a good barometer.
Yeah, definitely. So, tap in a little bit about, if you don't mind, the codependency piece and how that kind of, because there definitely could, that whole relationship definitely had strings of codependency in it. And so I could have totally moved into my codependent nature and moved in that direction rather than me communicating myself and being seen in that and being empowered. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, how do we recognize that? And how do we recognize or that's happening in the relationship that we're in? And then if you are in a relationship that way, if the things that he says are resonating with you and you're like, oh, I maybe am in a codependent relationship or dynamic, then how do we navigate that? In your opinion, I'm very curious, this just popped in my head. Can you heal codependency in a codependent relationship? Can you guys both heal your codependency, or do you need to just step away? It's opinion-based, right? It's perspective-based. So what's your perspective? Yeah.
I feel like that's the codependent dream, right? Like, we'll heal together.
Yeah. Totally.
But also, I think there's some value in it. I don't think everything's black and white. Like, the past 2 or 3 significant relationships, or people I was dating, at least, I feel like they mirrored a lot of things to me, and I would hope that I was doing the same. And there's like the last one, for instance, there was a period of time where, it was hot, it was amazing, and I was also getting triggered like crazy. But there was both of those elements of I really, really resonate with this person, and I love this person. Like, they're fucking amazing, and I'm getting really, really triggered.
Yeah. Totally.
So there was a lot of anxiety as well. There was a lot of self-attack. There was a lot of just that just cringy feeling of possibly not good enough, or loneliness, wanting to keep talking to that person and then them pulling away or something. and made me feel very contracted, or, like I did something wrong. But then after a period of time, I stopped resonating with that person. And then I just felt a lot of like guilt and mainly guilt. Like I owe it to them, right? Like I expressed all these, feelings, and I did resonate with them at some point, but now I'm not fucking resonating. And now I feel guilty because I'm like, if I pull away, I feel like an asshole. Cause like I did mean everything that I said, but that kind of gets into like the whole thing we do as codependents of just going like way too hard, way too soon, versus just, like sprinkle it over time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, dude.
So if I would have done that, then it kind of would have developed very naturally. But as it happened, as it unfolded, I had to end it very abruptly because I'm like, okay, this is not good anymore. Like this is not an equal exchange. Like we're both not benefiting from this interaction anymore. And if I don't end it right here, then I'm just going to string this along for like another, who fucking knows, 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months. And we're just going to resent each other more and more and more. And it's not going to be abrupt. It's not going to be like sudden resentment, but it's going to be like a little like drop of resentment daily. And that pain to me is like worse than anything else. Mm-hmm. So I think you can heal your codependency in a relationship, but you have to be really, really aware of if you're resonating with the person, and if they're activating, things within you that are now ready to come up and be surrendered or integrated, burned out, purged, cleansed, whatever terminology you want to use. But then there comes a point in time where it's like, okay, this is no longer of value, and like being able to clearly see that so you don't. And again, I'm very hesitant to say waste because you will get that same lesson. Like I had to do that a bunch of times. Of drawing it out for long periods of time to then kind of get that. So now as soon as I fucking feel it, I'm like, all right, I got to back up. But it's not always perfect. Sometimes it's like maybe a week longer than it should have been, but it's so fucking more quickly than it used to be, which I'm really grateful for. Cause it's like, wow, I don't hurt myself as much as I used to. It's like I was, running around the house running around the dark in a darkened house with scissors, and I kept hitting walls and like cutting myself. It's like, oh, like, what am I doing wrong? I don't understand why this is happening. With enough checking in with like how you're feeling and what's resonating with you, I think over time you develop that awareness to go, is this nourishing me? And that, I don't think that means like, I'm just never triggered. That's what's nourishing me. No, I think like what does trigger you is nourishing, because you want the stuff to get activated. You want that stuff to pull that to the surface so you can clearly see it and get it the fuck out. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you just carry it forever. I'd rather have like 2 years of intense, horrific fucking triggers than like, 10 years of moderate triggers. Yeah. I'm going to get a drink of water real quick.
Yeah, you're good.
Cool.
So it's very interesting because you were talking about, why do I keep hurting myself? This is like really embarrassing to admit, but it's good. It'll be good for me to be seen in this. And I talked about it on one of my solo episodes. But whenever I was in this, it was a codependent relationship for sure. And I kept hurting myself, like mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I kept being like, I knew I was hurting myself and I knew that I needed to leave the situation, but I was like, oh, but we can fix this. And, oh, we can change this and this and that, And so then the universe, like, that's why I smashed my face, is because I had to hurt myself. I was already hurting myself emotionally, and then it was mentally, and then it was spiritually. And then once I hurt myself physically, I was like, all right, I'm tapped out. Like I'm tapped out. Like I'm stabbing myself with the scissors, like you said, stabbing myself with the scissors, and it's been cutting me. And now I just fucking jab myself in the stomach. And like, I can't not look at this and see that there's scissors in my stomach. Like, it's on my face. I'm looking in the mirror. It's on my fucking face. Like, I can't run from this anymore. I have to address this. And it's challenging because when we get to those places, then I feel like we start to shame ourselves. We start to we move into guilt, and we start to shame ourselves for getting to that place. Like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, really, Brittany? Like I was literally being guided. Like I'm getting like angel numbers that are saying you need to release this person and like you need to let go of the situation. And like I'm getting everything from the universe. I feel it all in my being. And I'm still like, but maybe we can do this, you know? And he was a really fantastic person, like really, you know, but we just were codependent and that was not okay. And there were toxic things that were happening, although the majority was fabulous. There was this toxic string that was too much. It was too much. And so then we move into this place of like feeling guilt and shame about the fact that I got myself to where I am. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So what is your perspective and recommendations on how to, when you're in that place, now I recognize that this was unhealthy. Now I recognize I was in this too long. Now I recognize that I wasn't addressing this or that, or whatever it may be. And now I feel like shit about myself for getting to this place. Now I'm out of this relationship again. So I'm back to feeling the loneliness and I'm back to, you know, feeling the guilt and the shame for being in another cycle of this, blah, 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 all those things. What is your best recommendation of how to move through those emotions in that circumstance?
I think honesty is probably like the big first step. So not stuffing it in the corner, you know, again, and like nourishing that bad habit, but instead just like being honest. This could look like a journal post, like you're just writing like a one pager of like what you're feeling and just being brutally honest, really raw about it. And then after you kind of vent and you kind of acknowledge what you're feeling and you are honest about that, there's any number of directions you can go with it. Like you could just say affirmations like, you know, I love the one who's feeling, let's say, super ashamed right now. You could look at it from the viewpoint of, so I heard somewhere in like a video that self-love equals noticing what you're doing right, and you're always doing everything right. So objectively speaking, let's say you are feeling shit tons of shame. So after being honest with yourself, like, oh, I'm investigating that. And I think that's an amazing fucking practice that, you know, honesty could be the doorway into like, okay, what am I feeling? Like that self-inquiry, like, okay. Because for me, I know for sure in the beginning, I didn't know what the fuck I was feeling. I had to like literally Google my emotions. Like, is this shame? Maybe this is sadness. I don't really fucking know. I know I feel contracted.
All the time.
It's so necessary. So like once you know what you're feeling, like give a voice to it. Okay, I feel this way because of this. And I don't know how to, you know, change this. I don't know how to shift this. I don't know how to fucking get rid of this. This sucks. This makes me feel like shit. I feel fucking worthless. Then, you know, acknowledgement can be really good. But, you know, I don't like this. I may not prefer this state, but I'm doing such a great job feeling so ashamed of myself. Objectively speaking, I'm killing it. I'm fucking a champ at beating myself up or at feeling judged or at feeling so anxious. So just finding little doorways, like, you know, cracks, crevices, any way you can to enter into that emotion through honesty, yes, and then layering in some form of compassion. And
that's what I was going to say. If you didn't say it, I was like, I got to throw compassion in there. If he doesn't cover it, it's got to go in there.
And it could look like, and I love you, or, hey, I'm here for you. Hey, I'm not going to abandon you. Like, however long you need to be here, I'm going to be present with you.
Yes.
And maybe it just stays in honesty. Maybe, you know, I love you is like way too fucking much. But just being honest about it and saying, I don't know what to do about this. I don't know how to make this go away. That's a great fucking start.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For sure. And then, I mean, I feel like naturally as long as you really mean that, whenever you're like, I'm going to be totally honest with myself and we're going to sit here as long as we need to, and we're going to be present with this. I feel like naturally it just moves towards compassion. You get to a place where you just accept and you accept yourself and you accept it. And then it becomes integrated. That part of you, instead of it being fragmented in something that you're pushing away from yourself, it comes integrated and then you become even more whole. Like all of these parts that we're rejecting from ourselves, we're taking it and saying, I'm not going to reject this. I'm going to pull this into me and accept this part of myself and honor that, yes, I do have tendencies with codependency, or I do feel shame right now, or whatever it may be, and just integrating it into the wholeness of your being. I feel like that naturally happens whenever you like identify it, like you said, identifying it. And I don't think that all people need to identify it. I'm just very mind driven. So like my mind needs to understand, like, what emotion is this? What does it mean when I feel this emotion? Like, what happens when, like I need to know that breakdown.
Good point.
I'm so like, my mind's so driven. I don't necessarily feel like you have to know what the emotion is. You can just feel it. But for me, it's super helpful to know and understand it in order to really sit with it and be with it. I feel like I'm more present with it whenever I have a label for it. The ego mind has a label for it and what it does and blah, blah, blah. But then as you naturally just sit with it and you get comfortable with each other, it's like you're just sitting there with each other and you get comfortable with each other and then you just accept each other and you're like, okay, we're doing this thing together. Like we're both here for this. And that's what it is,
Yeah.
And then it becomes integrated and then it dissolves, it's really an amazing process. And I do think that sometimes
it's fucking beautiful and kind of.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I do think
I interrupted you, please.
That inner child healing is sometimes a necessary step in that. Like I really have a high belief that guilt, that shame feeling is connected to an inner child. So that's who you're actually addressing. And I was just talking to, I do want to hear what you were going to say, but I was just talking to, I did a heart healing harmony. It was like a little heart healing ceremony. And then we had, my friend Brooke came in with sound bowls and whatnot. And, in that I said, I was talking about the thing that I was healing on my heart. And I was like, it's like I had this little gremlin on my shoulder and like, they just like won't stop telling me that I'm not good enough. I'm not good. It was like when I was working through that I'm not good enough thing. And I was like, they just keep saying it. And I'm just so fucking sick of hearing it. Like, just go the fuck away. And then someone in the circle said, what we resist persists. And I was like, thank you for that reflection. Like, I know that, I understand that, but I didn't even realize I'm like trying to fucking shoot this gremlin off my shoulder and say, get the fuck away from me. I'm done hearing this. And then whenever I moved into the feeling, I was laying in my bed and I moved into the feeling and I was like, okay, we're not going to resist this. We're going to absorb this. I found that it was one of my inner child. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I called you a gremlin. Like, I'm so sorry, hon. And so I sat with her and I moved through it. And then it was just divine timing. I happened to have my therapy was the following day. And so I was like, immediately we got on the phone. I'm like, yo, we need inner child. I already know where we're going. Like, we don't have shit to talk about. We need to dive right in. And so, for me, that was a huge realization that we're identifying these emotions and being like annoyed or almost agitated with the emotion whenever it's like, look at that emotion as a baby girl or a baby boy. Like that's what that actually is behind that. So don't get angry or mad at the emotion because that's just sending it. It's like, to me, I'm like seeing it sending it down the same cord. You're sending it to that inner child, that anger, that frustration, that I'm annoyed with you, that get the fuck off my shoulder, get out of my head, is actually your inner child screaming and dying for attention. And that's why she won't stop on your shoulder. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. 100%. That's huge. Something that like I'm moment by moment obsessed with, like that process of you're an inconvenience. Why are you getting in the way of my spiritual journey and fulfilling all of these things that I want to fucking fulfill? Why are you doing this to us? Like, I clearly have everything mapped out so perfectly, yet you are just coming in and fucking it all up. What the fuck? And every time, like, not time, but like every moment that passes, this is how I like to look at it. This really, really helps me when I catch myself getting into these periods of neglect, which is what it is, like abandoning myself. Every moment that passes that I don't really have like my fingers on the pulse of my emotions because I am entranced by some outcome or some shiny state or experience, the more stressful everything becomes and the more everything speeds up. Like from physiologically, right? Like speech, how I'm breathing, the rate in which I'm speaking. Can I actually listen to what the other person is saying? You know, am I thinking about what I'm going to be doing after this call? Am I thinking about what I'm going to say, you know, without really listening to what you're sharing? To impulses like, oh, I want to go watch a movie right now. Oh, I want to go, you know, fucking go get hammered. Oh, I want to smoke this cigarette. Oh, I want to, you know, use this nicotine. Not that these things in and of themselves are bad inherently, right? But the place it's coming from. It's like, well, I don't really want to do these things, you know? I want to make content, or I want to, you know, something that is fucking fulfilling me and that I really feel aligned with. And that only like all that discomfort, all that agitation, all that restlessness only comes because I'm not just opening up that dialogue. I'm not paying attention to whatever the hell is here to be shared. And I feel like there's this very big disconnect because there's like two of us in each moment. There's the remnants of our childhood, of that neglect, that abuse, that abandonment, that, you know, those patterns of codependency. And there's like us, present day, like aligned, empowered, you know, why we're fucking here, the dreams, the intuition. And finding a balance of, okay, I'm listening to what I'm feeling and I'm carrying this present energy, being present with what I'm feeling and what I need in this moment. Could be honesty, could be, you know, specific, you know, statement, and then carrying that presence into whatever it is that I'm doing, conversation, work, taking a nap, whatever it is. Yeah.
So let's dive into, I just really want to cover, if we can, ways for people to identify that they're in a codependent dynamic, and then things that they can do when they identify that they are in one. Self-sacrifice has got to be one of them, right? Like you start to lose yourself, basically. You're not honoring yourself, like you're sacrificing your authentic truth to satisfy something, regardless of what it is outside of you.
I love this question. Yeah, I agree with you. I think when it's coming at a cost of your own energy, like if I'm not aligned, then we shouldn't really be talking, you know? Like I can communicate what I'm feeling so that you don't feel, you know, bad. Not that I should be like, you know, goddamn, I should be like worrying about if you're going to fucking take offense or not, but like communicating, like that's super important. But then beyond that, it's my responsibility to be present with what's coming up and not project that onto you. Because again, if I neglect that, then I'm going to want to talk to you, but it's not going to be a want. It's going to be a need. I need to talk to you. I need to see your text messages. I need some form of communication because I need you to soothe me. So if I'm not soothing,
validating
myself.
Yeah.
100%. So I feel like interactions should come not necessarily from like this place of alignment, because it's like, well, fuck, if I'm not feeling super fucking great about everything, then I can't do it. Like that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that you can be super triggered and activated. But if you're present with that, then it's not going to be so uncomfortable. It's not going to be so crazy. Like the longer we neglect our emotions, the more uncomfortable it becomes. The more we start to acknowledge it, the more we start to build that sense of peace and ease and calm. So personally, when I'm in that state, that's when I'll then send a text message or like send a meme, right, to the people that, you know, I'm dating, or even best friends. Like that's when I'll open up a line of conversation. If I'm not feeling that, then I don't even like, I already know what to expect. Like I don't want to go have a conversation because I'm going to be like in my fucking head worrying about, oh, this person hates me when they've, you know, we've been together as a friendship or a partner for X amount of months and they've exhibited nothing but stellar behavior. I'm going to doubt everything. I'm not going to be able to trust myself. So feeling like, is this calm? Like, do I feel inspired to talk to this person right now? Or do I need to? And a good way to discern the difference is, can I easily walk away from this person? Can I not text them and be totally fucking like calm and like just chill? Or do I have to? If it's a have to, then you have to go sit down for a little bit and like see what's up and what you need.
I really like that because I had a situation with my best friend come up where I was recognizing that I was getting super codependent on her. Like it was not healthy. And now granted, there was something that I was going through that I needed outside, like my own consciousness was not allowing me to see the truth because it was my hurt inner child that was really, that was the consciousness that the lens was being seen through. And so there was, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I hate to use that word, but like I needed her at that time. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. And I recognized later, I was like, that was super unhealthy that I needed you in order to get me out of that. Like, I should have been able to get myself out of that. And like, it was like, basically the situation is I'm like, see me like swirling in a pool of water. It's like a whirlpool and I can't get myself out of it. And then she like throws me the life jacket and like reels me out. Like that's what the situation was. And I was like, dude, I don't know what I would have done if you weren't so fucking real with me. Like if I didn't have you to mirror back to me, like me and my best friend are really fucking real. You know how real I am. So like, we're really fucking real with each other. And like, I would like say something to her and she'd be like, you are not in your power right now with this. Like she would say that flat out to me. And I'd be like, fuck, you're right. Like this is a disempowering statement, And so, but I couldn't see that. Like I was just saying these super disempowering things and being like really not in my power. And I couldn't see it. I had the blinders on so hard that I couldn't see it, that I was like, and then like, because she was like my saving grace, because she was like the one throwing me the life tube, I became too reliant on that. Like and it got to a place where I had to communicate, like, I know you're trying to help me and I know that I need help. Like we do match each other right now, but I have to get myself out of this on my own. Like I have to empower myself and get myself out of this on my own. And I learned a lot through that. I learned a lot through that process and a lot about like how I, like you said, self-soothe, how I navigate myself without having, cause it did become a need. Like there was one day where I literally called her. I was freaking out in my head and I literally called her like 5 times in one day. And by the end of the day, she was like, she picked up the phone and she's like, what's up, dude? Like, what the fuck is good? Are we having this conversation again? And I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And so I just recognized like I have to be able to navigate that myself, because it's great to have people to rely on. But if I'm calling you 5 times in one day to validate my decision to leave this person, that's not empowered. Like I need to make that decision and be in it and like move forward and trek forward. And so it can happen really, like that was me, like what, like 3 or 4 months ago, like it can happen. And I've, I perceive myself as pretty self-aware. Like I'm pretty conscious of my actions. I'm pretty good at self-soothing and working through my shit and all that kind of stuff. And so no one's like an exception. Like we all have shit that we have to work through, and we all have to, do our best to, yes, utilize the resources around you, but be aware and watch the level of dependency. It's good to have people in your life that help you, but just watching and identifying and seeing how much am I leaning on this to be the support, soothing, validation, blah, 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 all of those things for me to navigate through this. So that brings me to my second question then. Once someone is in that position, how do they navigate it? So now we've come with identifiers, right? How do I identify that I'm in a codependent relationship? Now, how do I navigate if I'm in it? And I recognize now that I'm in it, how do I navigate that?
Love that. I love that. And everything you said prior, by the way. Because it's true. Like, it doesn't matter how high up you get in status or followers. Like, it happens to, everybody, no matter how fucking glamorous or positive or empowering their social media might be. I've been dealing with fucking panic attacks here, moving into this new place. For viewers who don't, know anything about me, I just moved after living with my family members for like 4 or 5 years, and I've been having like nonstop panic attacks. And I've been like, the first 3 days, I notoriously, like, relentlessly texted my best friend when I woke up, because I was just literally feeling like I was gonna fucking die. Yes. And my heart's beating and I'm sweating and I'm just like, holy fucking shit. Like nothing is working. Like, all of the processes, like everything is just falling short. And I just have to like suffer through this. Like, I can't handle this.
Yep.
So yeah, I love that. I think it comes down to like desire. So once you identify the patterns, you're opening up that conversation with how you're feeling, and you are being super honest, then I feel like you're able to tap into what your intuition is trying to tell you, which is something that you talk about a lot. And then I think however much it resonates, like, you really got to be honest and go, okay, what is the move here? Is it to stay with this person because they are helping me trigger a shit ton of stuff and I resonate with them? It's not so much like, let me just put myself on the cross to suffer, but like, yeah, I do resonate with this person and they are helping to trigger me. So this is good. It's an equal exchange. This is aligned with my heart. I'm not just like what I'm not saying is, oh yeah, stick with the narcissist who just like devalues and treats you like complete shit and just accept that and tolerate that behavior. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, they're a healthy person, but sporadically or here and there, something they do reflects a wound that you have and activates that. That's what I mean. I think that's can be super, super healthy when you're aware of that dynamic and what's happening. And if you think that's good, I'm kind of seeing somebody right now, that's how I feel about that. So I make sure to show up ultra present. And when I do get triggered, I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you so much. I don't directly tell them. I mean, sometimes I do, but mainly I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wow, this person's amazing. Thank you so much for being this fucking gift and helping me trigger. And then I take some space and go process whatever the fuck that was, and then come back when I'm aligned. And it's great. And it's like jokes and that surge of joy lasts for however long it lasts. And when it starts to decline, I get triggered again. And it's like this beautiful little like ebb and flow process.
So it's really,
but when it stops resonating.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Yeah. I was just going to finish with like, if it stops resonating and you're like, okay, maybe it's time for me and this person to maybe call it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's such a hard decision because as an empath, as a codependent, you hate displeasing anybody under any circumstance. I don't care what the fuck it is, but it's so necessary because it's just not valuable anymore, and it's time for you to move on to the next dance partner, so to speak, who can help you trigger more things. And yeah, because even when like I am triggered in those relationships where it does resonate, that trigger resonates. Versus when it stops resonating, I'm not like, oh, this is valuable. I'm just like, oh, I don't really prefer that. I don't prefer that anymore. Mm-hmm. So it has no more value for me. I'm like, this isn't productive. So making that call as quickly as you can is the game. Yes. But if you're not able to, like, don't stress it. Eventually, after enough time passes, you'll accumulate enough evidence of like, I'm really not supposed to be this person. Mm-hmm. Let me go now.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of like self-awareness and intuition, like really trusting that, which I think is a big reason why I feel called to teach the intuition development course, like teach what I teach, because that's what it is. It's self-awareness and intuition. And those are going to be your main guides to navigate through anything, always, but I think too, like really, that resonance piece of like being really attentive to your feelings, like being super in touch and attentive to how is this actually making me feel? Is this in resonance? Or if it's not, and then it's almost kind of like not judging. It doesn't have to do anything with them or with you. It just is. It just doesn't resonate anymore. I actually, this is kind of interesting that I'm going to bring this up on a podcast, but there was this guy that I met, I don't know, it was like probably a month ago now. Super sweet soul, man. He was so awesome. And he was like totally down with the homesteading thing. Super handsome guy, like very proper, opened the door for me. Well, like very kind, genuine. All of his friends had great things to say about him. And you can tell when someone's a good fucking person, And,
Totally.
and so, of course he's like, can I have your number? Da, 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 da. And so we get connected and dude, it was just, we were both like present and like, hey, let's check each other out. Like we both are on the homesteading game. Like we're both like doing, you're fucking hot. You're hot. You know what I mean? Like we were both so present. Okay. And it was just not aligning. Like we would be like, yeah, just hit me up on Sunday and we'll see how it works out. And then like, it just went in line. And then it got to the point where like every weekend, like I was like going out of town or like this would happen or like it just never was aligning. Okay. And then it got to the point because neither of us were like giving up that like we played fucking phone tag, Dante, for 5 days straight. Like I missed his call. He missed my call. I missed his call. And he's not on social media or anything. So it's like, we weren't going to like message each other. And it was just like, it got to a point where I just messaged him and I was like, listen, dude, like this is nothing to do with you. I don't think it has anything to do with me, but like, this is just not aligning. And I'm just ready to surrender because I don't force things. Like I don't force things and that's not how I operate. And this is starting to feel forceful. And I think you're fabulous. Like, I hope you don't take this personally at all. I think you're great. I think you're awesome. And I think I'm awesome too. But like, this is just not aligning. It's not resonating. Like it's not aligning. And it has, it was like, what reminded me of is because I said that same thing. I was like, there's no judgment, like it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. It's just simply not aligning. Like it's just not the resonance, the frequencies are not syncing up. And that has to be okay. Like I have to be okay with that because forcing shit is not going to work out well. Like it never, whenever you fucking try and move against the universe, like, oh my God, are you going to be in for it, buddy? Abraham talks about this, like, like upstream, don't go that way. Don't go upstream. Turn around, go downstream. It's a lot faster. It's a lot easier. But I think that that's part of the thing is that we get judgmental or we take it personally. And then that's whenever feelings get hurt and all those kinds of things, whenever it's just simply, it just is, it's just not in resonance. And you have to be okay with that. Like you just have to be okay with that. You have to, in my opinion, you have to trust the bigger universal force, the bigger universal picture, the bigger universal plan, in order to get to the things that you're really meant for, even if you don't understand it in that moment.
Beautiful.
I feel like it's a trust thing, like a trusting the process. Because it's a process. Yeah. Trusting the process. Yeah. That is what it is. That's exactly what we've been explaining over and over again this whole call.
Just in different ways, in different fashions and forms.
Oh my goodness. Wow, this has been so fabulous. I love you so much, dude.
Likewise.
Well, as we wrap up here, is there any little dose of wisdom or anything that you would like to leave our audience with? Whether, I mean, it can be about relationships and codependency, or it can just be like whatever you feel like your intuition pulled to your heart to share with the audience.
Love that. Yeah. To what we just kind of wrapped up on. the other person doesn't need to be okay with you making decisions aligned with your heart. So a lot of the time, you're going to attract people who are in a similar wavelength and frequency, and you're going to reflect things that activate and trigger them, and they're going to reflect things that activate and trigger you. And when it is time for you guys to move on, one of you inevitably is going to make this decision. Like, okay, one of us has to align with our hearts. So it's going to be me. And as you start practicing, as you build more emotional awareness, more emotional acuity, more trust, you start to see the positive feedback from doing that, just the immediate benefits of just calming down, slowing down, self-soothing, but also the trajectory, the arc your life takes from making those heart-centered decisions. Mm-hmm. You're going to have more trust and faith in doing the right thing, so to speak, that resonates with you. And that other person doesn't need to be okay with that. They're also in the process. Don't make them out to be these like perfect transcendental beings, which they are at their core, but they have trauma too. Mm-hmm. So they don't need to be like, you know what? I'm so glad that you decided to break up with me right now. Like, I'm fucking totally on board with this. Yeah. No, love and light. Hope you fucking like find $100 tomorrow and like you just go on and prosper. Like, they might be judgmental. They might resent you, but don't apply that as a judgment to their character. Just be like, you're amazing. Like, this was beautiful. And we both got activated. And one of us had to do this, and this is nothing bad about you.
I love that. I love that so much. It's so possible. Like, it really can be done. I've done it in relationships. It's possible. Thank you. You're so wonderful. It's so good to see your face. As far as people getting a hold of you, what's the best way? What links you want me to drop in the show notes?
Instagram them usually works. Slide through the DMs. Question. If you want to work together, that's cool. Just want to follow. See some of the stuff I put out. It's cool too.
Cool. Sounds good. I will drop Instagram in the show notes. Feel free to check out Dante. He's super rad. He's super awesome. He's supported me for years now. I've supported him for years now. I love you, and I'm just grateful to have you here. And yeah, thank you for your presence. Like, truly, I want to really make sure to recognize that. Like, you're so present, and I'm so grateful for that.
I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll see you guys next week. All of the love. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed that episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and if this was impactful for you at all, please share it with others. This is how we can help each other. Much love and namaste.